Hello everyone. It's me, Arden Lee. I am back for another video today, and today I would love to talk about the topic of how to feel more motivated, right? How to stay on track with your goals, even when you're not feeling particularly productive, right? We're going to look at that, and if you have not yet done so already, I would love to invite you to subscribe to my channel. On the channel here, I love to talk about how we can control our beliefs, our internal states, our thoughts, and use that as a means of empowering ourselves to create a reality that we're happy with, that feeds our success and our happiness, and leaves us satisfied with where our lives are. So if that sounds like your jam, hit that button, and also, stay in touch. Connect with me. Let me know what you're thinking about all this. Let me know how all these videos are hitting you. Let me know if it's useful or not. Leave me some comments. And of course, if you have ideas for topics that you would like to hear me speak about, there's something that you are currently struggling with in your own life, let me know. Leave a comment, and I will try to get to that in a future video as well. You may also notice that today I'm in a different location, got a different background behind me. I am at my family's house, hanging out here with my mom for a few days, getting a couple things done, and it's it's certainly an appropriate topic for me to be talking about how to feel motivated here, because I'm definitely in an environment where it's definitely not easy to to stay motivated, because my parents have cable and Netflix and everything, and it's so great to just like hang out and just veg and be completely lethargic, and eat all the food in their fridge and lie around and nap all day and play with the four cats that are here in this house. They have three cats themselves, and then of course I always bring Virgil with me. So Virgil's my kitty, if you're not already familiar with him. He appears in a lot of my videos. So, so it's kind of an appropriate topic for me to be talking about right now, because our environment controls so much about our inner state in ways that I believe that we don't often admit to ourselves. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. So oftentimes when we're trying to be productive, we feel that as long as we're choosing a project that motivates us, that we feel inspired about, if we have this idea and we're like, oh, that would be a great idea, I should do this. And we believe so often, erroneously, that the initial inspiration behind that idea, just by virtue of something being a good enough idea to be worth our time, we believe that that should keep us motivated for the entire duration that it's going to take us to complete it. And sadly, that's just not always the case. Sometimes, of course, the quality of your idea is really important, and there will be times that your lack of motivation will be an invitation to you to sit down and say, do I really still feel the same way about this project that I felt about it when I started a while ago, or have things changed? Do I really want to see this project through to completion? Is it worth my time, or am I just kind of like, throwing good money after bad, or, as I like to say, continuing on the GPS route to the store even after you have realized that the store is closed, for example, right? Whatever the metaphor is for doing something that you're only doing it because you set an initial intention. You set an initial intention to do it, not because it's actually still serving you. So there will be times that you're absolutely, if you are feeling that lack of motivation around a specific project, then certainly opening that up and saying, is this still a good fit for me? Is this still going to serve me in some way? Is this still something that I really want to be doing? Or am I just sticking with this because I'm afraid of quitting? Or I'm afraid that makes me a person who is not of my word? Am I afraid that if I don't see this through to completion, that somehow I'm a failure? That's a really good thing to examine. So first off, we'll just make that the first point on how to feel motivated. The question is, if you are not feeling motivated, is it actually because this is not something that you are meant to work on at this time? Certainly there's been a lot of work that I have done in the past where all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I want to move on to this thing. And there have been times certainly where that was a wake-up call for me, and it was like, hey, Arden, you don't enjoy this thing anymore. You've been doing it for a while, and it's no longer serving you. It's time to be done because you're no longer feeling inspired by it. On the other hand, there are certainly those projects that we tap into that idea and we say, hey, I'm not feeling super motivated around this, but I know that I still really want to do it. And maybe it's even the fact that I want to do it and I'm afraid of taking that step forward and doing it that's making me, panic and procrastinate. And I don't want to actually step into doing it and bringing it to fruition because I'm afraid it won't actually be as good as what's in my head right now. So if that is what you're suffering from, just remember that you'll never know unless you actually make it. You probably know this already, but it's okay. Like, you need to give yourself permission to fail. You need to give yourself permission to suck a little bit. And all great artists say this. Moby in particular wrote this really scathing essay about New York, and I want to say it was in maybe like 2013. I think it was around the time when I myself was leaving New York. So Moby, the recording artist, wrote this really beautiful essay about how New York is no longer welcoming to artists because of all of the economic constraints of living in that city, and certainly the energetic hardships of being in a city that is so whose weather is quite unfriendly, whether it's summer or winter, and being so crowded and having so many people around you and so many people struggling to survive, that it's not conducive to being an artist, because an artist needs to be able to fail. And essentially what Moby said is, he was like, look, if you want to be creative and you want to be in a big city, then at least go to LA, which is funny. I had already made that decision by the time I read the article, but it certainly cemented my own move for me. He said it was, in LA, essentially, LA is not such an expensive and crowded city that people have no other options. Most people know someone who has a spare bedroom. That most people have friends whose living spaces are large enough that you could crash there for a little while if you wanted to. The cost of rent, the cost of living in LA is not as expensive as it is in New York. At least there are more options anyway. I've certainly felt in LA like there were always more, it was just like a friendlier place for for me to live, essentially. So what does that have to do with being motivated? Well, what Moby is essentially saying is you have to have space to fail. So if you're afraid of failure, if that's the thing that is keeping you from moving forward, just know that the great artists who have made it as successes have allowed themselves to fail before, because that is part of the creative process. So as long as you can give yourself that room to say, hey, if this doesn't turn out well, I can scrap it and start again, or I can scrap it and I can work on something else that will come up for me as I'm in that process. So that's another way to sort of get over that fear of that sort of, if you realize that what you're doing is procrastinating because you're just afraid that your final project is not going to look as good as it does in your head. I invite you to just flip the script on that, and not only allow yourself to fail, but enjoy the knowledge that you get from your failures. Because if you're really going to be a serious, it doesn't even have to be an artist, whether you're an artist or whether you're a creative person of any kind, even whether you're a business person, which by the way takes a lot of creativity, then you need to empower yourself. I invite you to empower yourself with the knowledge of what you're good at, and where you still need to round out those skill sets. So if you do make something and it's not as good as you thought it was going to be, then Virgil's coming in to visit me, by the way. then that's where you have that opportunity to either say, okay, I'm going to focus now on what I do better, or I'm going to hire someone to do X, Y, Z on this project to help me with it, or this isn't my wheelhouse after all, and so I'm going to work on a different thing. So that knowledge will always serve you. That's something that's really important that I think a lot of people kind of miss out on. And by the way, you guys, there have been times that I've failed massively in what I was trying to create. I tried to do an artistic project, like a visual arts project, and I forgot. I was like, oh wow, I haven't drawn since I was about 12 years old, and I was pretty good at it when I was 12, and wow, apparently I no longer am. So for that, I was like, wow, if there's going to be a visual art component to something that I'm doing, I should probably bring on a collaborator with me, right? So no big deal. Okay, I failed, and I got over it. There have been other things where, with my music, for example, I've recorded 3 EPs with my band, Arden and the Wolves, and each one has gotten better and better each time because I am able to look at them and see, okay, what about it worked, and what about it do I need to round out with, other professionals who are, who know more than I do, about making music, essentially. So don't be afraid of your failures because your failures are information. Let's keep going with also how to feel motivated, and this may be one of the most important ones. I said earlier in the video that it's hard for me to stay motivated when I'm at my parents' house because it's just so easy for me to be lethargic or whatever. And you'll probably notice that, like, even now, like, here I am and I'm making this video because I've made a commitment to myself. But of course, like, I don't know, I'm not like, I didn't like do my makeup or anything for this video, which I know that that's probably not why you guys watch my videos in the first place, but I was like, well, let me do this, but I haven't like, I haven't looked around for like where the best lighting in the house is or anything like that, so even in this, I'm kind of like, all right, let me just put it out there because of course it's more important that I finish it than that it's perfect. So here we are, here we're doing that. But there's such a lesson to be learned in that, you guys, which is that so often we think that our motivation is supposed to be this thing that comes from our internal state that we're supposed to be able to control, and we forget how much our external environment actually affects us and affects our ability to feel one way or the other. So one thing that I noticed was, I was like, wow, if I go to coffee with a friend, and not just any friend, but one of my, one of the handful of friends that I have who is also creative and a go-getter and doing interesting things with their lives, and if we get coffee together, then the combination of like not only the caffeine but the conversation that I've spent with this person who is someone who supports me and believes in me and is a great sounding board for my ideas, the way that the way that I'm able to talk with them and share with them all the things I'm excited about, all the things that I'm doing, and hear back from them what they're also working on, is so incredibly motivating that as soon as I'm done having coffee, I'm like, I want to finish all my projects like right now. I want to just rush home and just do all of them because I feel so in flow. Everything I'm creating is literally on the tip of my tongue because I just sat here explaining it to someone, right? That was something actually that that artist and journalist Zach Smith said once. I believe it was on his Twitter. He was going to the AVN Awards, the Adult Video Network Awards, and he had been commissioned to write an article for a magazine about being at this event, and he tweeted he tweeted as he was there something along the lines of, if you've forgotten the main core, the heart of the project that you're working on, if you've forgotten the reason that you're working on it, or what it's supposed to be about, I recommend trying to explain it to a drunk person at 4 in the morning at a hotel bar who doesn't speak a lot of English. so essentially, it's that same idea. Once I've explained it in its most basic terms, what I'm doing, all of a sudden I remember why I'm doing it, and I'm going to go ahead and do it again. So finding someone that you can explain your idea to talk about it, once again, and that may bring you back to that initial state of inspiration that you feel that you've somehow lost along the way. But, importantly is just keeping track of the things you do and how they make you feel. And then rather than guilting yourself into saying, well, why can't I feel just as motivated to, complete my projects when I'm here at my family's house than I do right after I've had coffee with a friend and talk things out. Instead of feeling that guilt for not being able to control your internal state as well, just control your externals. If there's something you have to get done, then book that coffee with a friend or whatever it is that does it for you immediately before you have to do it. And certainly, certainly there's energetic differences between projects that you have to do because you're working on a team or working for someone and they're being assigned to you, versus the projects that you as either a creative or an entrepreneur, or just a sovereign creator, someone who is coming up with those inspirational ideas on your own, that you're doing that. There's differences between those two things, most certainly. But you can always find those external elements in your environments and the people that you're surrounding yourself with, that are going to help you be motivated about things. So if it means making a phone call to that friend while you're on your lunch break at work, if you're one of those people who is working in an environment where you don't have as much creative freedom, finding that coworker that you can say like, hey, I trust you and me to like brainstorm and bounce ideas off each other. Let's talk about this. Maybe you can help me kind of talk this out, or, if you're on your own and you're kind of like, gee, I'm the only one controlling this project, so why don't I feel more motivated around it? If this was my idea to begin with, I should, I should feel more motivated to do it because I wanted to do it in the first place. Whatever your circumstances are, find those things that make you feel that way. Some people, watch YouTube videos. So, hey, subscribe to my channel. Like, if this is making you feel motivated right now, do that, so whatever it is that gives you that state change, whatever it is that you notice contributes in a positive manner to your mood and helps you get things done, that's what I recommend doing. That's removing the impetus from yourself to be able to control how you feel in every moment, and starting to curate environments for yourself that help you feel the way that you want to feel more often. I've tried to do both those things, and let me tell you, when you try the first way, all you end up doing is just repressing the emotions that you're actually feeling, and you just stop listening to your body after a while. Instead, acknowledge the way that you're feeling, process it, and then try and set up your life for success so that you are surrounded by the things that are actually helpful to you in maintaining your state. For me, that latter has been way more useful than the former ever was. So thank you guys for listening. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.